All right, welcome back to the channel, subscribers and non-subscribers. Let's talk this boxing. Errol Spence Jr. said that he is definitely knocking out Terence Crawford. Let's talk about, it was actually in a boxing scene article today. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back, man. This is one of my favorite subjects in boxing. If you can't tell, it's a great topic on so many different levels. First of all, it includes two of the best fighters in the world, no doubt about it. Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. are two of the top fighters in all of boxing, top two fighters in the welterweight division. They're both American fighters that I've been following pretty much their whole careers and are big fans of. But now they're matched up together in the same. They're both in the same weight division. So when these two juggernauts got to the same weight division, like that word, trying to be more expressive. But when these two juggernauts both when Terence Crawford joined Errol Spence Jr. at the 147-pound division, these juggernauts were set up for a match with one another. Unfortunately, there's some things that might be holding up the fight, and that is the fact that Top Rank represents Terence Crawford, and the PBC Premier Boxing Champions, which is operated by Al Heyman, is the organization that Errol Spence Jr. works with. I'm trying to stay away from calling them promoters because it's not technically a promotional outfit, but you get what I mean. Also, you're gonna see a couple jump cuts in this video because I'm just kind of irritated. My nose is a little irritated. So if you see little skips in the language in the videos or the presentation in the video, that's because I had to edit out where I sneezed or something like that. I'm not sure what it is today, man, but my nostrils just going crazy. Anyway, so that's the background on Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford. It's a fight that I think that most people are looking forward to. Some people have Errol Spence Jr., other people have Terence Crawford, right? As far as winning the fight, but there's a lot of barriers to it. Errol Spence Jr., though, when we talk about the actual fight, though, and the two fighters talking to one another, Errol Spence Jr. Said that he is definitely going to knock out Terence Crawford, and he brought up a couple scenarios, a couple reasons why that is. So I want to discuss that. There's some counter arguments to it. You know what I mean? I'm a big Errol Spence supporter, big Errol Spence Jr. fan. There's some things on the Terence Crawford side that might negate that, but we want to review it. Also, just want to let you know that there is a possibility that the same boxing scene article was written off of a interview that was given by Errol Spence Jr. That might have been a PBC. Oh yeah, it was another PBC. It was a PBC, another PBC podcast, or it was on the PBC YouTube channel. I'm not sure which one because it gets copied and moved around, but with I think it's Ray Flores, who's the announcer for the PBC. I think he was the guy that gave the interview for Errol Spence Jr. and he said something similar to this. So if these are the same, these very well might be the same comment that they're referencing, or it might be a scenario where Errol Spence Jr. just said the same thing again. You'll see that in boxing. One guy interviews somebody, the next guy interviews somebody, so their answers kind of wind up being the same. But the logic behind it is this. Errol Spence Jr. says that he really believes he can knock out Terence Crawford because Terence Crawford has shown certain vulnerabilities that are tailor-made for Errol Spence Jr. Right? Specifically, he pointed to the Yuriorkis Gamboa fight, and he pointed to the Igis Kalvinakis fight. Now, if you remember, Terence Crawford fought Yuriorkis Gamboa back when Yuriorkis Gamboa was still fighting for 50 cents and SMS Promotions. I think it was a co-promotional fight in Nebraska, maybe back in 2016, 2015, 2016, somewhere around there was when those guys fought. And It was in Lincoln. It was in Nebraska. It was a home fight for Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford, I thought watching that fight was dominating the fight. I don't think that it was. I mean, it was Yuriorkis Gamboa was a good fighter. He was hanging in there for a while, but Terence Crawford just wound up starting to really run downhill on Yuriorkis Gamboa. And what he did was he got a little too lax. He lost his focus. He was going after Yuriorkis Gamboa. He was being cute. Yuriorkis Gamboa, I do believe that it was a right hook that Yuriorkis Gamboa hit him with, and Terence Crawford went every kind of stanky leg. There wasn't no doubt about whether or not Yuriorkis Gamboa really hurt Terence Crawford, because his knees went bumped together like this and shake, rattled, and rolled. So no doubt about it that he got hit, which was the first time that somebody could point to Terence Crawford having could potentially have a Tommy Hearns type of problem, which is his chin. And then you saw him again fighting a guy, Egis Kalvanakis, who's a decent sized welterweight in his last fight. And he got caught. I do believe that also was a right. I also think that was a right hook when he was in the south. Was he in the southpaw stance or was he in the orthodox stance? Those are interesting fights because Yuriorkis Gamboa against Terence Crawford, there was a lot of both of those fighters switching between southpaw and orthodox. In fact, Yuriorkis Gamboa spent a considerable amount of time in that fight against Terence Crawford fighting in the southpaw stance. I can't recall which stance Terence Crawford was in, but it was, I do know that it was the same hand, and it was basically a right hook. It was a left hook, not a right hook. Basically a left hook that caught him and wobbled him. So you've got a guy that is a smaller 135 pounder, man. And by the way, Yuriorkis Gamboa was not really a big 135 pounder, man. Yuriorkis Gamboa, I do believe, came up from I think he came up from 126 to 130 to 135. That might have been the third weight class that Yuriorkis Gamboa was fighting in, if I recall correctly. Yuriorkis Gamboa now was like 38 years old. I think he was he's 32 at the time. So that was 6 years ago. That was 2014 because I recall that he was 32 years. He was 32 at the time of that fight, and he was just getting into he was just getting a little bit over the hill. The Cuban fighters also come over in their careers, come over and start pros a little later because they got a defect. But anyway, I say all that to say that Terence Crawford from those two fights shows that he is vulnerable to getting rocked. So then Errol Spence Jr.'s logic is, look, man, if I can get that same shot off on Terence Crawford and Egis Kalvanakis can rock him and knock him down, it wasn't an official knockdown, but he was definitely buzzed, okay? So even if it wasn't a knockdown, he was definitely buzzed. Same way that I don't believe it was a knockdown with Terence Crawford and Yuriorkis Gamboa when he got buzzed, but he was definitely buzzed, okay? So he's getting buzzed by fighters. One fighter was several weight classes below where Errol Spence Jr. is. The other guy only has, Egis Kalvanakis only really has the ability to land a shot every blue moon, right? If Terence Crawford is really on his P's and Q's, but it just shows a little bit of the vulnerability or soft spot in the armor of Terence Crawford. Now, the other side of it is, though, and see, you play a little devil's advocate for my man Woolbag. I don't have a problem doing this. The problem is that there's an issue on the other side, though, where if I was a Terence Crawford guy, and I am when Errol Spence Jr. is not involved, I'm telling you, I'm being very upfront about the fact that I'm an Errol Spence Jr. fan. Definitely an Errol Spence Jr. fan. Terence Crawford fan when he ain't fighting Errol Spence. But I would say in that scenario, yeah, but Errol Spence Jr. hasn't knocked anybody out in the last couple fights, right? The last knockout that Errol Spence had was Carlos Ocampo, with one shot, body shot. Before that, he knocked out Lamont Peterson. Before that, I do believe that's when he knocked out. Before that, he didn't knock out Sean Porter. He didn't knock out Mikey Garcia. The fight before that was the Carlos Ocampo, where he did knock him out, and there was several knockouts before that. So you could say, well, hey, Errol Spence Jr., when he's fighting the very, very top quality fighters, or the guys with the most skill that he's fought, he hasn't typically gotten a knockout. Because I would say the 3 most skilled fighters that he fought are probably Mikey Garcia, Sean Porter, and Kell Brook. And he got knocked out, and he only knocked out Kell Brook, right? And he was having, it was a back and forth fight. So people could say, hey man, Terence Crawford might be able to he's a better boxer than them. So why would he not be able to knock out Sean Porter and be able to, not knock out Mikey Garcia, but be able to do that to Terence Crawford? My response to that is that I think that Terence Crawford's chin is a little bit worse than Mikey Garcia, because I saw Mikey Garcia take a lot of flush shots and not go down. And he was kind of fighting not to get knocked out. Sean Porter did get dropped, and Sean Porter did get hurt in that fight. I thought he got hurt in that fight a couple times, but that's Sean Porter. I think Sean Porter might have a better chin than Terence Crawford, because I've seen him knocked down, but they're flash knockdowns, like boom, knees up. I've not seen Sean Porter look like he got rocked and buzzed like the Yuriorkis Gamboa Terence Crawford, like when Yuriorkis Gamboa got hit Terence Crawford like that. But at the end of the day, man, it's going to be a real-time exchange between 2 top-level fighters if this happened, and you never really truly know what'll happen, because injuries can happen. Different stuff can happen, but I love the fact that Errol Spence Jr. is never waned on the fact that he wants to fight Terence Crawford, that he thinks that is a big time fight that people, the kids, young fans will remember years later after those guys retired. And in a way, man, that's, it's kind of what it's all about, man. Well, not it's all about. That's a major portion of what it's about, because after you're done fighting, that as far as boxing goes, that's all you got. You got the money you made. Number one thing is you got the money you made when you were fighting. And number 2, you have the memories and the adoration of fans that, for thinking and seeing you behave like a champion. So anyway, it is what it is. We'll talk about this subject more and more because, hey man, like I said, man, it's one of my favorite subjects in boxing. I love chopping up with you guys about it. Y'all let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out.